Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stella Ferris, and you've crash landed on the Monster Catchers Journal podcast. Today's episode delves into the recent catch I caught called Numora. Allow me to offer some background of Numora. A long time ago, when a school full of children were playing, they came across this rare artifact that was said to bring things to life with love. They used it to bring a bunch of clouds to life. Some say it was their laughter that brought them to life. The clouds were overprotective over the children, so when they got mad, they would rain broken gadgets, spoiled food, unlucky objects like black feathers or broken mirrors. There were also a mix of smaller enemies. The Luan Academy had seen this as a bad omen, so they ran the clouds up the mountain, and that's where they have been ever since that day. So now, let's get into the story. It was a warm summer day, the twin suns and 3 moons set in their normal spot above the academy. I was about to venture into the forbidden section of the academy. To tell the truth, this wasn't the first time either. I just had to steer clear of Professor Orion. He would never allow it, or never let me live it down. But who's counting? I was standing outside the door. It was silver with a large biohazard symbol. At the top it said in red letters, "Authorized personnel only." I was about to enter when someone cleared their throat. I spun around, coming face to face with Professor Orion. Professor Orion said, "And where do you think you're going?" And I replied, "Nowhere, Professor. I was just wondering where this door leads. I mean, there's a biohazard symbol. But no one is allowed to enter?" "Never you mind what's behind the door. Now get to class," Professor Orion shouted. I pretended like I was going to class, but I snuck into the door, unaware that Luna and Zena had followed me. Outside, it was just a pathway that led up the mountain, made of stone and dirt. And it led all the way up until I came to a large pink crater at the peak of the mountain. Inside was 1,000 of clouds, some red, some green, some turquoise. But what I was looking for was a fluffy blue one with a tail. I continued to look when I saw it. It's the only one of its kind, and the first to be made. I opened my bag and pulled out my vapor glyphid. It's the only way to catch a vapor-styled glyph. I placed the glyphid and set it. The cloud got angry and scared. He turned dark and rained rotten food that landed on a bush Zena and Luna were hidden in. "Ew!" Zena shouted. "My hair is ruined!" Luna cried. "I thought I told you to go to class. We wanted to help," Zena said to me. "Besides, no one can know you're catching this glyph, or you will get in trouble. And they will confiscate it, because of how dangerous it is," Luna said. "Fine, but you know what happens if we get caught," I said as I threw my hands up in defeat. I watched as the cloud tried to fight the glyphid's power, but it lost and was pulled into the glyphid. I picked up the glyphid and put it in my bag. Me, Luna, and Zena were about to leave when all the clouds around us started to turn dark gray. My stomach lurched as I realized that this time Professor Orion was right. I should have listened, but as always, I never do. That's what I get. I should have left well enough alone, but as always, I had to have this glyph. The cloud started to barrel towards us. We came up on the door. It swung open and slammed shut right behind us. Standing there was an angry-looking Professor Orion. His eyes knitted in confusion and anger. "Stella Ferris, Zena, Luna, what are you doing here? I sent you to class," Professor Orion said as his features changed to pure fear. Did you catch one? A Numora?" "No," I lied. "We were attacked before we could—" "You were right this time, Professor Orion." "Good. School's over. Go home, Professor Orion replied to me in a stern tone. So I was thinking I should move in with you. I mean, I could live in the basement since you only have 2 rooms upstairs and you and Zena are already staying in them, Luna said excitedly as we walked away. That would be amazing. I'd love the idea. Move in with us, I said. Yes, move in. Then we can have a sleepover every night, Zena said as she wrapped her arms around me and Luna. So back at the sanctuary. Now it was time to acclimate Numora into the fray of glyphs in my sanctuary. I placed the glyph and pressed the button. The glyph slowly opened up, and from the glyph it came Numora. He looked left, then right. He floated over to a spot where the moons of Nibiru, all 3, were shining through the window. He swirled in circles like a dog trying to get comfortable, and he laid down and went to sleep. Well, it's safe to say he loves the sanctuary, I said. So much so that he went to sleep, Luna said as she chuckled. I spent the next few hours watching Numora. He slept, flew around, and played with the other glyphs. His favorite was Orabeak. All of a sudden, there was a knock at the door. My heart sank because I knew exactly who waited on the other side. I feared that he had already figured out that I lied to him earlier, and that he was coming to take my Numora away. You have to hide, my friend, I whispered to Numora. Numora hid, and I walked over and answered the door. As expected, it was indeed Professor Orion. He wore a solemn look on his features. His hands were tucked behind his back, as if he were in thought. May I come in? Professor Orion asked stoically. Of course, I replied, nervously. Professor Orion stood at the door, hands tucked behind his back, still, for a minute before he entered. He walked in slowly, eyes drifting across the sanctuary. The glyphs sensed his presence. Some retreated into their resting spots. Others stood curiously still. I kept my back straight, hiding the anxiety twisting in my chest. Behind me, Luna and Zena stood silently, exchanging glances. Professor Orion, without looking at me, said, Tell me, Stella Ferris, did you truly think I wouldn't know? My breath caught. I didn't answer. He walked toward the sun-drenched window, where just moments ago Numora had curled up. Faint traces of vapor still shimmered in the air. He knelt slightly, touching the ground with his fingers. His voice became a little softer. With the next line he said, It's here. I can feel the resonance. He's here. Numora, as if sensing his name unspoken, slowly floated out from behind the pillar where he had hidden. His fluffy form pulsed with a pale blue glow, the tip of his tail trailing glittering mist. He made no sound, no expression, just drifted silently beside Orabeak, who ruffled his wings protectively. Professor Orion stood up. You caught Numora, and you brought him home. I did, I replied. And he's not hurting anyone, Luna said. He just wanted a place to rest, Zena said, stepping forward. Orion looked at the 3 of us, his sternness faltering, a crack in his armor. You don't understand the pressure this puts on all of us. Numora is connected to something much older. The cloud you saw at the crater. Those were guardians. When you pulled him from their circle, you broke an emotional tether. It will stir unrest. They're already moving. He's safe here. He doesn't want to go back. Numora floated gently to the center of the room, circling once beneath the beams of moonlight, spilling in through the arched windows. Then, like a feather, he lowered himself and curled up again, peaceful, content. Professor Orion watched closely. He's dormant. That's good. He likes it here. He's not just a glyph. He feels things. He plays, he naps. He has a favorite spot by the window. Orabeak shares his food stash with him, that's rare, Zena said. After Luna. Professor Orion exhaled and turned towards me. I'm not taking him away, Professor Orion said. You're not? I blinked. No, but this isn't over. I need to prepare the sanctuary. There's a storm, I need you to prepare the sanctuary. There's a storm coming. The clouds will search for him, and they will not stop. You must protect him and yourself. He made his way to the door, pausing before he left. And Stella Ferris, next time you break into a forbidden zone, at least wipe your footprints. You led Luna and Zena into danger. Noted, I replied. He disappeared into the evening, the door clicking shut behind him. Sunlight. The next day when I woke up, I was greeted by the sunlight streaming through the high windows of the sanctuary, and it was filtered by the dome skylight. Birds were chirping from the tree-top glyph towers, and the peaceful hum of sleeping creatures gave the morning a dreamy calm. I stepped into the main chamber, stretching with a yawn, still riding the glow of last night's peace. But something felt off. Numora hadn't moved. He floated in the exact same spot, right under the moon window, where we left him. His glow was dimmer than before, and his tail swayed slowly, listlessly, like a drifting thread. He hasn't eaten or even tried to share his food stash again, Zena said. He looks sad, Luna said, frowning. I approached carefully, kneeling beside the mist curling around his base. His eyes opened, just barely, no sparkle, no mischief, just distance. You miss them, don't you? I asked softly. Numora floated a bit higher, hovering toward the window where the 3 moons and the sun hung low in the sky. We could take him back just for a visit. Maybe he needs closure, Zena said. We can stay nearby. If things look bad, we'll pull him back into the glyphid, Luna said. I hesitated, glancing toward the glyph terminal, where the vapor glyphid rested. This felt risky, but then Numora turned slightly and brushed his tail against my hand. It wasn't a nudge. It was a nudge goodbye. The wind was still as we arrived at the crater. It was quiet, no movement, no clouds. Numora floated from my side toward the crater of the pink-stained basin. He stopped and waited. Maybe they're watching? Luna said, hopeful. Maybe this is going to work, Zena said. For a moment it looked like it would. A soft breeze stirred the edges of the crater. Bits of glowing dust rose into the air. Then the sky darkened, fast. That's not normal cloud movement, Luna said. Something's wrong, Zena said, drawing out her glyphid. The cloud surged over the crater ridge, angry and swirling violently, not graceful like Numora. Chaotic. Their colors flickered unnaturally, pulsing with heat and static. They didn't greet him, they rejected him, and they attacked. Black rain fell, not water, but corrupted enemy glyph fragments, shattered drones, twisted scrap beast. Spined metal birds. They dropped like bombs, materializing midair, hissing and screeching. Deploying brass shade. Ignazura got into position. Orabeak, go! I shouted. Verdellum intercept, which was a move that Luna's Myrno had. We launched our glyphs as the battle lit up. Metal and mist clashed, vines ripping through enemy bots, feathers slicing through air. Brass shade shielded Luna, just as a bird-like enemy dive-bombed her. It was a move that was meant to protect. Myrno still shaded her with the brass shade shield. They're aiming for us, not him. I glanced at Numora. He was in the center, frozen, surrounded by attacking enemies, ignored. His tail flickered, a tear of vapor streaming down his side. They blame us. They think we stole him, I said. Suddenly an enormous, jagged vapor cloud dove at me, only for Orabeak to crash into it midair, taking the blow. We can't keep this up. There's too many. Retreat. Regroup now, I said. Just as we begin to fall back, a massive pulse of light slams into the crater. The clouds retreat, instantly vanishing like smoke on the wind. The enemies collapse into sparks and vanish. Professor Orion stands on the ridge, eyes glowing faintly, his cloak billowing. He looks like a storm given form. Professor Orion says, booming, "What have you done?" We stand in silence, bruised, bleeding, holding our half-fried glyphs. I warned you. I told you to keep him safe, not parade him into the storm. Do you have any idea what you've awakened? Professor Orion shouted. He was sad. He thought if they saw him, I said, my voice shaking. They don't see him as one of them anymore. You broke the bond when you took him. And now they see you as a thief, Professor Orion shouted. After our big fight with Professor Orion, we headed home. We just didn't want to hear any more about how we did wrong. So, Numora lies curled up near the skylight again, silent, dim, smaller than before. We sit in silence. Zena wraps her wounds. Luna stares at the floor. We thought we were helping, I said. Instead, we nearly died. The clouds didn't want Numora back. They wanted revenge. Now the storm has truly begun. Yeah, both Luna and Zena say. The following days, the sanctuary had never felt so quiet. Even the usual nighttime hum of chirping glyphs and glowing moth flutters had faded. Outside, the wind had stopped. Inside, the air was thick like the building itself was holding its breath. Numora hadn't moved since we got back. He was curled beneath the skylight, tail limp, his glow barely more than a flicker. His breathing, if you could call it that, was shallow and pulsed, in uneven rhythms. I think he's heartbroken, Luna whispered. They turned on him. It was like they didn't even recognize him, Zena said. I sat on the floor staring at my hands, still faintly shaking from the battle. My glyphs rested in their pods, drained. Ignazura and Myrno had burns. Orabeak's wings was scuffed. None of us had escaped untouched. The crazy part is, I had thought we were doing the right thing by giving him closure, but bringing him home wasn't the right thing because the clouds didn't want to welcome him. They wanted him back in pieces. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Professor Orion stepped into the room, his boots echoing softly. His expression hadn't changed since the crater hard. Disappointed, unreadable. We stood up instinctively, bracing for another round of fury, but instead he looked at Numora. He knelt beside the small blue form and ran his fingers through the mist trailing off its tail. Professor Orion looked at us and said softly, "He's fading." Zena started to panic as she said, "Can't we heal him?" Luna chimed in, "There has to be a way. We didn't ask for this." Orion sighed deeply, placing a small cube on the floor. It pulsed once faint blue light, scanning Numora's shape. He's not dying, not yet, but he's retreating. Vapor glyphs are highly emotional, especially ones born of laughter and love, if their emotional bonds are severed too violently. Orion said. They collapse from the inside. He nodded grimly. At me. You need stability, new bonds, new identity, one separate from the others, Professor Orion said. Can we help him do that? Zena asked. Orion looked at us, really looked. For a moment, something softened behind his eyes. You three may be the only ones who can. But understand, the clouds will come again, not for him, for you, for your interference. And next time, they will fight, Luna said firmly. Then we'll fight, Luna said firmly. No, this time we prepare, Zena said. We began building that very day. Glyph defenses, reinforced shields, cloaking fields. I even worked on modifying Numora's glyphid to stabilize his energy through emotional syncing and channeling sharp memories, laughter, calm. Numora didn't move, but sometimes his tail curled toward the sounds of our voices, or his glow pulsed faintly when Orabeak dropped pebbles by his side. He was listening. He wasn't gone yet. We'd faced storms before, rogue glyphs, shadow beasts, even spectral contagions from the hollow depths. This was different. This was personal. Numora was ours now, and we were going to fight like it. We thought the catch was the end of the story, that bringing him home was the hardest part, but it wasn't. The hardest part was proving to a broken creature that they still deserve love. So we build, we guard, we prepare, because the storm is coming back, and next time it won't be just rain. Numora floated happily through the upper rafters of the sanctuary now, trailing soft ribbons of glowing mist. He moved differently, lighter, freer. He'd even begun mimicking Myrno's grounded spin and power hops, though he often paused to stare out the window at the sky beyond the forest. The ritual had worked. He was brighter, stronger, but that didn't mean he wasn't still wondering what might have been. Luna was seated cross-legged on the floor of her room, a soft hum of ambient glyph music playing from a crystal embedded in the wall. Ignazura, her gleaming sapphire and ruby-striped tiger glyph, lay curled near the bookshelf, soaking in the heat of an enchanted lamp. Luna scribbled in her field journal, her brow furrowed. Numora's glow has increased by 14%. Emotional resonance stabilized. Still dreams often muttered and missed. We'll continue observation. She paused, tapping her pen to her chin, then looked toward Ignazura, who raised his head and let out a faint chime-like growl. You feel it too, huh? He's not done healing. Ignazura stood stretching his crystalline limbs with a crackle of energy and patted over to rest beside her with a huff that sent a soft breeze through the pages of her journal. Zena lay across her bed with one leg hanging off the side, her boots still on, and half her toolkit scattered on the floor. Myrno, her rhino meerkat, hybrid glyph, sat perched in the corner beside a wall of magnet sensors, monitors, his thick shoulders hunched forward in alert curiosity. She clicked through her handheld receiver, adjusting frequency dials. I knew those clouds weren't done. Myrno snorted and scraped his horn-like brow against the side of the glyph scanner. Static buzz, then faint glyph pulses. Zena stood up fast. Here we go. The three of us gathered around the glowing glyph terminal as data streamed across the screen. Zena had her goggles over her eyes now, scanning frequency overlays. Multiple vapor type readings, high concentration, Movement patterns suggest a formation circling something. Zena said. They're not headed for us, Luna said, arms folded, eyes narrow. No, but they're doing something deliberate, Zena said. Where? I asked. The Housefire Mountains, Zena said, tapping the screen. The name made my stomach knot. That whole range had been dormant for years, sealed off by the Academy due to unstable leyline activity. They're either building something or waking something, I said, thinking out loud. Outside we could see Numora float toward the tall glass window. He hovered there in eerie silence, gazing towards the jagged silhouette of the distant mountains. Later that night, in my room, the moon cast cold silver shadows on the floor. I sat in the dark, my recorder glowing faintly in my hand. Quietly for myself, I said, Today was a win, but it's not the end. The clouds are still moving, gathering, and something deep in me knows they're not just coming for revenge. They're building towards something bigger, something ancient. Numora isn't the first ripple, and we're standing at the edge of a very deep ocean. And with that, that's the end of our story. This is Stella Ferris signing off. May the many gods of Nibiru shine their ever-true light on you. Until next week. And maybe next week I'll talk about the many glyphids that we use to catch our glyphs. And with that being said, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.